On that note, that kind of covers a lot of the before things that people probably didn't think they had to do with resumes, dress, and everything. So the biggest part is when you do land in DC and you're there in the middle of it, and it can be overwhelming. So, George, one of the first things that you said is planning ahead and time management. So, can you kind of go through, the things that you have to balance when you're at convention between the workshops, the career fair, and everything, and the social events?
Yeah, I mean it's a challenge for sure. I mean it depends, as Rahul was talking about. It depends on what focus you have. If it's kind of a combination where you're going for personal growth as well as for a job search or for a career move, but you want to make sure it's balanced. I would say in any given day, you probably can realistically go to 2, maybe 3 tops workshops and panels, and then the other half would be career fair. The reason why I say that is that, especially for certain booths, there will be longer lines. So the best way to gauge that sometimes would be to go early in the morning for the career fair, especially because a lot of people they may wake up later, or they may be on some other type of meeting or somewhere else in the convention. So that's probably the best point is to go. The best time to go would be earlier in the day to hit the job fair. And then it kind of frees you up to go to some workshops or panels. Plus, if you do a good 1 hour or 2 hours in the morning, early in the morning, it takes less pressure off of you when you hit the afternoon hours when a lot of people are at the job fair. If you just go to all panels and workshops in the morning and it's all going to go to the job fair now because I got to look for a job, well, that's probably not the best strategy. You want to make sure it's balanced. Maybe some jobs or a career fair in the beginning, first couple of hours, maybe go to a workshop, panel, get some lunch, maybe get the job fair right after lunch. You'll find a lot of people are at lunch. So there's another time period where the lines aren't as long. The biggest lines I would say would be between maybe 10:30 and noon. That's a heavy traffic time. And then again from about 1:30 to, I would say, 4. That's a huge traffic period line for the job fair. So again, that time management during the actual day, I think that's how you got to do it.
Van, let me take one step back. You mentioned when you land and you get overwhelmed. A mistake that I see a lot of young people make at their first convention is before they even get to the convention, and that is when they land at the airport and they have no plan on how to get to the convention. Washington, D.C., you can lose 2 or 3 hours if you don't have a plan. If you're landing at Baltimore, Washington, or Dulles Airport, you need to have a plan on how you're going to get from the airport to the convention hotel. I have talked to people that at 1 or 2 in the afternoon, I just got here. Why? It took me 2 hours to get here to the convention. Have a plan, and as a former D.C. resident, anybody can reach out to me by email, Facebook, or otherwise, and I'll tell you what the fastest way and the cheapest way to get from whether it's Dulles or BWI. National Airport's easy. It's a hop, skip, and a jump. Don't lose time. Don't waste your precious time. For example, if you're coming on a red-eye from the West Coast, don't lose precious time because you've not planned how you're getting the hotel or getting to whatever other hotel you're going to for the convention.
Excellent. How about you, Leighton?
Yeah, that's kind of interesting to hear from Raul. I always go like a day or 2 before the convention gets kicking because, I don't want to be in transit the day of the convention and then, risk losing an hour or 2. I always think it's better to go a day earlier or so, kind of get a feel for the hotel, kind of map out things. That's what I usually do. I go maybe the day before too, but I know that doesn't work for everyone. So if you have to go the day up, keep what Raul said and George. If you can go a day before or 2 days before, I highly recommend that because it takes so much pressure off and makes it a lot easier for you. And it's like everyone says. I mean, it's just basic. Just plan ahead, know what your schedule's going to be, know who you want to target, and just plan it out. If you're not a morning person, I'm not a morning person, so I can't get up early like George can or you other people. But you just gotta kind of strategize what you're going to do in terms of the workshops. And with workshops, prioritize them. Sometimes you're just going to have a conflict in the schedule, and just prioritize. And and then when you have the free time to go hit people at the job fair, hit them hard when you can. if you can't get up early and do what George and Raul said. But that's just kind of my strategy when I've done it.
Raul, do you mind, because I'm getting some questions on my phone from people, because a lot of us will be flying into Dulles, including myself. Can you just maybe give us a quick, while we have you here, a quick way to get to into downtown DC to the hotel from Dulles?
Okay, option number one, there's a Metro bus 5A, and that will come into town to either Roslyn or Lafayette Plaza. Then from there you can take a cab or take Metro. That will get you to the hotel that's the Metro station closest. I have to look it up again. I'm pretty sure it's the Chinatown station. There's also a bus called the Washington Flyer. That goes from the airport to the Falls Church station. So you've got two buses that go from Dulles. Otherwise, you can take a taxi. Obviously that's more expensive. But you've got two different bus services, a private one called Washington Flyer, and of course public transportation that you can take in too. They've also opened the brand new line, the Silver Line. It does not go all the way to Dulles yet. I do not know what the new services around those are, but either look at the WMATA website, which is WMATA, that's the metro system in DC, or look at Washington Flyer. Those are going to get you decently quickly into town, and at a pretty good price. I believe about $7.
And I think AAJ has a super shuttle. One of the last newsletters I saw had some type of super shuttle, and if you mention AAJ, you get like a discount or something of that.
Correct. There's that, and then of course there's Uber. There's also some Uber discounts out there, so you can look at super shuttle. Super shuttle from Dulles does have a habit. I need to warn everybody that the super shuttle from Dulles can be very, very slow. They could stop at a couple of cities on their way into DC. It could take a while taking super shuttle. I've used super shuttle from Dulles into town when I used to work in DC, and it can take an hour 15 to an hour 30 easily, if not 2 full hours. So super shuttle is an option. Uber is also an option. There are plenty of discounts out there as Uber's trying to get a foothold in DC.
And try to find out, if you know of people going to a specific airport on a certain day, try to see if you can plan something with a few people or another person, and you can maybe split costs that way too. So,
exactly. A lot of people love splitting cabs.
Yep. So this is the time to do that now, because most people, I assume most people by now have booked their flight, so they know what time and what day they'll be there. So.
Yeah.
And splitting a cab splitting a cab is a great way to save a lot of money.
Yeah.
Yeah, the other thing I was going to add is also before you go, that now that these guys brought it up, is make use of the social network. There's a way to connect to people who are going to AAJA and find out who's going to get there at about the same time you are, because then, if you can get enough of people of a group to go together, maybe you can just get a cab and split the cost, and maybe that would save the price. I don't know, Raul knows better than I would, but
you will save money.
Kind of check the social network. I know people have been looking for roommates for the convention to cut their costs, and this is just another thing to look up when you're on the social networks and communicating with people. Can we cut costs with rides to and from the airport and so on and so forth. So make use of the social network beforehand. I know there's an AAJ website. There's a couple other. Sorry, I got distracted. There's a couple AAJ websites where you can connect with people, kind of find out, and it's a good way to meet some people beforehand at the convention, so at least you'll have some people you can hang out with if this is your first time.
Excellent. That is all really great advice, because we all know that the convention can get really expensive, especially for younger journalists who don't have the means to do so. And another thing, Raul, you mentioned also, this is a business convention, and some younger folks, perhaps, you get into it, and it is a lot of fun. You make a lot of friends there, but at the same time, it still is a business atmosphere. You're meeting a lot of industry leaders and people who are hiring. So I guess first impressions, how important are they? How do you can you remind people that they have to watch how they carry themselves?
Well, taking this from a person who does not make good first impressions, which is me. The first thing I would tell people is understand, in our hotel, the Renaissance Hotel, are going to be all the recruiters. They're also staying at that hotel. You've got leaders who are staying at that hotel. So you can run into people anywhere. So you don't want to act a fool at the gym or at breakfast or at dinner, because you never know who else is going to be around you at all times at the Renaissance. So you need to be on your A game at the Renaissance Hotel, because you never know who you're going to run into. Trust me, people ran into me not realizing that I was a recruiter at CNN for a couple of years, and they would be completely surprised to see me there. And they weren't, acting crazy or anything, but always know that everybody that is involved with the convention usually is staying at the convention hotel, recruiters and all. So, be on your P's and Q's at all the times. For example, in Detroit, there were some people who, they had a lot to drink. They were having a good time. They should have thought about the fact that there were other people like recruiters, like leaders that were around at the same time.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, that's sound advice. Always be on your best behavior. But, so they're at the social events, don't be afraid to have fun, too. Within reason. Within reason. Because, it's a social event. I think they want to be, you're going to meet recruiters and stuff, but it's kind of good to be that they can be comfortable with you in a lot of different events. So don't always be scared to be yourself at the same time.
Karaoke is a perfect example.
Yeah, I have a lot of blackmail material on everyone here from karaoke. But
True.
No, I think you should also go there and have a fun time and not get. Raul's absolutely right, and that's very sound advice. But I also like to point the other side. We all know Brian Tong. His nickname's Asian Usher. I don't think him doing his Asian Usher bit during karaoke has hurt him that much. So I'm just saying that when you do some things, when you're out socially, go out and have some fun. Just don't act the fool. Don't pick a fight, definitely. But go out and have fun. Like I said, Brian goes out there. He has a good time, and he creates a fun atmosphere for everyone. So I don't think anyone has anything that he does against him. And everyone at karaoke, everyone has a fun time, and that's just my advice is when you're at the convention and you're in your suits, be very, follow Raul's advice. But when you're social, we're out in the social atmosphere, just go out and have fun, and and just don't go crazy.
Excellent. George?
I believe we've been muted by George.
Hold on a second. Sorry, I muted myself because I was making noise on the keyboard here. I just want to piggyback on what Raul Layton have been talking about. There have been many people who have gotten or actually turned it into a job opportunity from social events. It's not just from the career fair. The networking that goes on beyond that. I know I have a good friend of mine who's in Seattle who actually got a current job more of a social activity. So just be aware that whether you're in a professional setting or even more of a social setting later in the evening, that any opportunity can happen at any given time, at any given moment. So, and you'll know how to act in any certain situation. So that's just, I just want to point that out, that sometimes you plant the seed for a job, not just at the job fair, but at the more of the social setting for real bonding begins.
Another question that we had. Oh yeah, Derek.
What's up?
Oh no, this is me. Yeah, sorry. The other thing I want to add, we've been kind of telling people in the social events what not to do, but one thing I'd say to do is introduce people to everyone else. To help network, I think it helps if you help other people as well. I tried to do it with Van last year. I had Van meet some of my friends that are in broadcasting that I thought could help her. And I would highly suggest that you do that too, because it's a good way to kind of meet people and expand your network. And I think it helps when you go out and introduce other people and try to help them in a social setting. So I would encourage that as well to in social settings, create a wider circle for everyone and introduce people to other people. I mean, for a lot of people, when they want to find out what to do socially, I introduce them to George, because George always has a lot of events. I know maybe not this year, but I introduce them to them. I think the world of Derek and Van, and so for broadcasters, I try to introduce them to recruiters because I think they're great up-and-comers, and so I try to introduce them to the broadcasters. It doesn't really affect me since I'm in print, so they're not my competition. I'm breathing down my neck, but just try to help other people while you're at the convention too, and help everyone meet other people, and I think in the long run it'll help you out as well. So I just want to throw that in there.
And to add to that point, I will say from personal experience, from my first convention, that actually helped me out a lot when people who were convention veterans introduced me to people who had been at conventions before, or even to other new people who are still friends of mine today, like Rex, who's AAJA in San Antonio, and even Howard Chen, and Don Chitness, and a bunch of other people that I can't think of right now. But that is a great point that Leighton brought up, that kind of expand your circle and introduce others people that way is a great way to help out first-timers.
That is true, and I remember my first convention too, Derek, was actually in D.C. in 2004. I was like a sophomore in high school, and I was scared. So I would also say, if you're a first-timer, if you've never been in this situation before, don't be afraid to talk to people. You sit at a table, and they happen to be all big wigs. Just stay and chat. You never know what's going to come out of it. So that is, kind of first impressions, getting to know people. Another question that we have from somebody is, will I get a job out of this?
That's a great question, actually.
Who wants to kind of tackle that first?
I can definitely tackle that. If you do not land a job, you will at least get some good leads on landing a job, or you're going to make the connection with the right person who could lead to a future job. You talk to a news director of a station that you want to go to, but they don't have an opening, but they may have an opening down the line. For example, for you, Van, or for Derek, obviously there's higher turnover at the small stations and even some of the lower medium stations, so there could be an opening down the road. Can you land a job at one of these? Yes. What more people do is they land the contacts and they network the people who will eventually get them a job. Every job that I've landed since 1997 was the last. 97 was the last time I think I landed a job cold. Every job since has been a job that was somebody I'd networked with. Okay? And to me, the long-term thinking is this. Don't try. A job interview is a really hard place to make a first impression. Okay? You try to make a first impression and then do the job interview down the line. Okay? Network and meet people. You may not meet the person who's hiring you now. You may meet the person who's going to hire later this year or next year.
George or Leighton?
Is it me?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Leighton.
Oh.
Mary moves in.
Marion's here.
Oh,
Marion!
oh my gosh.
Marion.
First impression. Don't try.
Oh guys, that took forever.
Oh wait, let's take a little break. Welcome, Marion, to the Google Hangout. So, Marion, just to get you up to speed, one of the questions we're answering right now is, will I get a job at the convention? So, Raul just answered, yeah, you might not get a job, but you'll definitely land the contacts and everything. So, Leighton was answering, so let's hear from Leighton.
Okay, I'm going to make this quick because my battery's running low on my phone. I think Raul said it best, is that you might not get a job here at this convention, but you can lay down the groundwork to get a really great job down the road. you know, in sports for me it's been a little bit different. I haven't found a lot because I haven't found a job through the convention, but I've made a lot of great contacts. It's helped my career down the road, and that's from the people I've met, contacts I've made. So for me, I don't know if I'm the best one to answer that because I haven't gotten a job from the convention, but the contacts, the networking, that's all helped me, and that's all part of the process of finding not just a job, but a great job and your destination paper. So, yeah, if you can find a job, but if you don't worry. You can lay the groundworks for a great job down the road.
Excellent. George?
Yeah, I was just mentioning even before. I'll just kind of say it again for those people who may have just joined us. Again, job opportunities can happen at any time. However, if you're going in thinking that you get a job, it could happen, but it's no guarantee. But whether you're doing a social thing or going to the job fair or going to the panels workshops and talking to someone, again, at any given time, you're planting seeds. And I got a job out of the Unity Convention, but it took about a year and a half after the convention. I met a news director in 2004 at the Unity Convention in DC and planted the seed right there. It took about a year and a half, but that year and a half, I guess I kind of cultivated it and fertilized it, whatever you want to call it. And a year and a half later, I got a job in the San Francisco Bay Area at the NBC station. And that was born out of the Unity Convention in 2004 in DC. So that's proof right there that you can get a job out of a convention, but it's probably going to come out of a relationship that you will build and nurture along the way. And that's what really the convention is all about, is creating these relationships, building these relationships, making these connections, and then just keeping in touch from that point on, because that's where the jobs can happen.
And you know what? Let me add one thing to what George said. That '04 convention was important for me too. I met I was on a panel in 2004, and I networked with one of my fellow panelists. 4 years later, he helped me land a job in Washington, D.C. It took 4 years for that to blossom in what it did. So you don't know when you're going to meet that person, and when that person's going to, part of that network is going to turn into a job. For me, it was 4 years after the '04 convention.
Can I answer?
Yeah.
Okay, so it is like what George said. It's all about relationships. I mean, that's why I know Van and seen her grow so far. Voices is all about being a part of a family. When I was in Voices in '97, as a freshman, I'm dating myself, I met Joe Grimm. And then later on, when I just kept in touch with him, and he gave me my first internship. And then at another convention, I was speaking, and that's how I got my second job at the Seattle Times. And then how I have my current job is because the Voices, the guy who was a voice director when I was a student, Tom Wong, invited me to be part of a features journalism board, and at that convention I found my current job. So it is completely all about relationships, so I can totally contribute conventions, especially AAJ, for the jobs I've gotten.
So it seems like all the answers are clear across the board that, it's all about the relationship. So as you're going into it, maybe you want to find a job, but don't get that tunnel vision and really just focus on the network. Is that true?
Yeah, because it's scary when people approach you and just are looking for the job. I mean, especially when I was a music critic, and students would all the time, they try to meet me, but they would end the conversation with, "I can't wait till you're fired or dead so I can have your job." And I was just like, I wish you didn't say that. I never want to talk to you again. So it's genuine about it.
That actually brings up a good question too. I mean, what are some common mistakes that you see young people make or first-timers make when they're in this convention setting. One of them is, you know, offending the person you're talking to because you want their job. So are there any other common mistakes that you see with people at the convention who are inexperienced? Raul?
10-page resume. Still see it to this day. Really long, multi-page resumes. Your resume
Keep
should
it
be
to one
one
page.
page. One page. One page. You put your best material on there. One page.
Okay, I guess we're kind of going into the do nots. Any other do nots that you want to throw out there?
Also for females especially, that they should dress appropriately, nothing that they would be embarrassed to wear in front of their grandma. I mean, we've had this too many times where female broadcast students were basically pouring out and they were not covered enough. And it is very embarrassing. And you see it among interns as well. And another thing, and I do not suggest dyeing your hair purple if you are looking for a job for the first time.
Or the second time.
Or the second time.
Excellent. George, any do nots? Your top do nots?
I think it comes down to just learning the word respect. I mean, you think it's easier said than done, but I'm going to date myself now. My 20 years of going to conventions, I have seen and I have heard examples of like, what? What did that person say? Or why did that person approach this other recruiter like that? I mean, it's just astounding. You would think that everyone would know just basic etiquette and courtesy and respect, but they don't. So it comes down to just understand how you would treat these recruiters. I always say, and especially if you have good relationships with your parents, you treat them as you would your mom and dad. I mean, I hope that you not disrespect your mom and dad. So I would still approach it like that. Also, here's one thing that you definitely need to do is after you meet these recruiters, make sure you get their business cards and follow up. And I think this may have been mentioned, but follow up and send thank you cards and make sure that you stay on their radar. I can't stress that enough, how important that is to keep in touch right afterwards and send that thank you card. Those personal notes, those personal letters, those personal cards are really, really a nice touch. And this day and age, I mean, an email is fine, but I would take it one step further and send an actual old school traditional thank you card. And if you look in your mailbox these days, we really don't get stuff like that anymore. So when you do receive something like that from someone who you've mentored, or someone, if you're a recruiter and someone you've talked to at a convention, it is kind of real nice to, hey, I got a letter, I got a card, because everyone sends emails and you have like 100 messages in your inbox. But when you get that one or two cards in your mailbox, it really does stand out, and it can make a huge difference later on. I've actually heard that from many people who I have sent thank you cards, say, oh yeah, I remember you sending a thank you card afterward, and you were like one of maybe 3 people who did that. Really, just 3 people out of all the people they met at the convention? So I just thought it was standard protocol, but apparently a lot of people have either forgotten or they just don't know what to do.
Mm-hmm.